So now this is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and I've really attained a certain amount of really tremendous respect for Rabbi Chaim Kramer. Put this all together. It was his father-in-law, Rabbi Rosenfeld, that really introduced BRESLEV into that small community there. These people that originally were amongst the originals were the originals who found their way to Uman. So very deep stuff over here. Now, we had last time, I'll just read it out, and then we'll go down and we'll look at the notes on this and see how well we can understand it. He says, now 3 Mea alludes to Moshe. Now, what does 3 Mea, number 176, have to do with Moshe? Let's see if we can find number 176 here. 3 Mea alludes to Moshe. 300 alludes with the Hebrew letter Shin, which is the gematria of 300, has a numerical value of 300. 3 Mea. So he says the name Moshe, so he's writing like the Mem, Shin, Hey. Is combined, he's going to make a combination here. Is comprised of this Shin, which means 300, and the primary letters of Mea, which are and Mea and Mea. So let me see what he says. He says that I thought he was going to say something else. He says in the primary letters of Mea, the primary letters of the word Mea are Mem and Hey. The Mem, the M, and the Hey. So he says Mea, so here's Mem and Hey. So Rabbi Nachman will now explain why 3 Mea, 300, also relates to Moshe's essence. So I would have said, not exactly the way he said it, I would have said, look, so you take the Shin as 300, and you take the Shin away from the Mem and the Hey, you have the word Ma, which you mentioned before means what. Now let's see if what I said works over here in these ideas. So going on, he says, there's 300 to Moshe. This is the concept of the tzaddik contracting himself in the aspect of Ma, removing the 300 from the Mem and from the word Mea. He must make himself insignificant in 3 attributes, which are wisdom, strength, and wealth. Now, make himself insignificant in these ways. As is written, let not the wise man, the strong man, the rich man exalt. So there's a 3 again. So we have 300s. We find then that in each of these 3 steps, he becomes Ma, because he pulls the 3-legged Shin, which has three different points to it, out, and you're left with Ma. That's my explanation or my understanding. Now he's going to go into some aspects of this in number 177, and let's see if I can understand it. So he says he has to make himself insignificant in regards to being wise, strong, and rich. And then when you take that out, those are the 3 again, like the 3 arms, maybe not legs, but arms of the letter Shin. He says you take that out. He becomes Ma. What's left? So Moshe, what is left of Moshe? Ma, nothing. Which is what? Find him. Wisdom, strength, and wealth are the 3 attributes which men pride themselves most. I'm wealthy. At the same time, having these attributes is necessary if one is to be worthy of a revelation from God. So therefore, you have to have these things. Now, I'm not sure exactly. At the same time, having these 3 attributes, you have to be strong, you have to be rich, and you have to be wise. However else are you going to get close to Hashem? A rich man has leisure. It's impossible for him to spend time learning. As Rabbi Yochanan said, the Holy One rests his Shekhinah on a person who is strong, rich, and wise. And he must also be humble. We learn all these from Moshe. Moshe had the 3 attributes. He had these 3 things. He had money. He was wise, strong, and wealthy. Yet Moshe was able to negate himself entirely in the Ein Sof. He had attained a unique level of humility, as evidenced in his words, Nachmu Ma. Nachnu, we, Ma, or what? It was though Moshe this is the spelling of his name, Mem, Shem, He, and I had said before, I think if you take the Shin out, then you wind with Ma, had removed the Shin, he says it now. He removes the Shin, which is the three attributes that make a man proud and attain complete humility. So on the one hand, you have to have these three attributes, because if not, you don't have the wherewithal to be able to fulfill the need to come close to God, or to have this godliness come into you. But at the same time, you have to remove them, make them insignificant, and come back to what? So he said, come back to this. What? This is what Rabbi Nachman referred to above, that by virtue of his deep humility, the tzaddik becomes absorbed in nothingness, which is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Which we said other places, that these ideas, to understand that God is nothing, a very, very difficult concept to understand that. We are something. There's nothing inside of us. Sometimes I think, as a Rabbi Memran talks about, that if you took let's say we call it an atomic telescope or microscope, that's it, and you looked at a physical object and you looked deep into it, you will find that there's really nothing there. The distance between even the smallest molecules or atoms is tremendous. And they're scattered. There is a binding force, so that's the force of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, that somehow infiltrates them and brings them together into physicality. So all has to be thought about. And here we have it right here in Rabbi Nachman. Let's look a little bit more here. So he says, in this way, he's able to strip himself of corporeality and adhere to the light of the Ein Sof, which is not physical. It's nothing. Where there is no change of will whatsoever, it's permanently eternal. Rather, Yud Ke Vav Ke is the Elokim. Yud Ke Vav Ke, the name of Avaya, is the Elokim. Now, in other places, Elokim means dinim. So it says one it means a male and the other means a female force. So these are things that I know. Let's see what Rabbi Nachman is going. So he says, Hashem is entirely, who is good and beneficent. In other words, he wants to say that the kindness represented by the name Yud Ke Vav Ke, even inside of the dinim, which are the punishments and the cruelty of the world that we live in, it can bring it up. It can unite itself with this world. This is the aspect of one eyeball. Now, this is really a metaphor of metaphors, right? As is brought in the Idra, that's the Idra in the Idra of the Zohar, he says, in the time to come, there will be the one eye of compassion, and that's all. This corresponds to entirely, who is good and beneficent. Not that easy for me to pick this up. Let me see if I can go back over it again. He says, in this way he is able to strip himself of corporeality and adhere to the light of the Ein Sof, that even though that the tzaddik, let's say, has all of these strengths, all of these, the money, and he has the intellect, he's able to separate them, which are something. All of those things are something. They can be qualified. You got now 180 IQ, 110 IQ. What is it? You can qualify it. Beyond that, there is no qualification. There is nothing. And remove that, you're left with Ma. That's what he has said before. So after he does that, he is able to strip himself of corporeality and adhere to the light of the Ein Sof, where there is no change of will whatsoever. The world is, in the Ein Sof, it's not going around and around in circles. Rather, the Yud K Vav K becomes the Elokim, which I said before. Entirely. They're complete, in other words, they're completely one. That's the way I understand it. Who is good and beneficent? This is the aspect of one eyeball. As is brought in the Idra, in the time to come there will be the one eye of compassion. This corresponds to entirely who is good and beneficent. There's a lot to pick up on this. Mr. Shem, in the next shir, we'll be able to pick this up. This is Baruch Fleischman. I'm at the Tikkun Elevator Call Out.